Have you read this paper?
Uh-huh.
How do you think it compares to any other paper?
It sucks. But we are going to make it better.
Congrats on the show. I have to say, a big fan of The Office, but now I'm even a bigger fan of the paper. And I loved it so much. I binged it twice. It is so good. Yeah.
Thank you. That's so nice to hear.
I'm so happy that everyone gets to finally see this. I know there was so much buzz for months. We were all so excited, and you guys totally delivered. So happy to see that. We can get into spoilers. My first question, I have to know, was it always Josh Holloway for that cameo for the catfish twist?
We've gotten a lot of questions about that. He obviously really scored with that, and it was sort of the perfect face for Esmeralda to fall in love with.
Right.
Yeah. When you're discussing something like that, and there's other, you're rolling through possibilities, and, for some reason things don't seem right because one thing is not too believable. The other thing doesn't give you the right kind of footage. And then he comes up and it's just right. So when that happens, you just are so nervous about asking them, and hearing no. But so I'm still relieved that he was willing to do it.
Yeah, it's a very fun arc. And I love how Esmeralda, by the end, how she reacts and responds to it. And that was like the joy of watching that entire trajectory for her. One of the things I was reading in the production notes was that you guys said, Oscar's story never really felt finished. And I'm so curious about that. Like, what really excited you about picking up that character thread again for his character, as opposed to like somebody like Stanley or even Kevin, who I would have imagined another life somewhere.
Kevin is a bartender now, and he kind of found a better life for himself there. I think it's more appropriate for him. So harder to figure out how he would end up at a different paper company in Toledo. Stanley lives in the Everglades. He's kind of retired. So like the end of The Office sent the characters in different directions. And kind of sent them out of Dunder Mifflin. Oscar was still inside Dunder Mifflin. And also, there wasn't so much closure to him. He was sort of a dignified person, and he didn't kind of go bananas and then find himself or anything. He was who he is. So it didn't feel like we would be contradicting anything that we had ended with in The Office. And it felt like there was still curiosity to follow what he was going to do. So
there's definitely a lot more to him, and that we're starting to see these different layers, especially in the interactions. I think that's the most important part of the growth, where we get to see him be a different person with these people. Having watched the whole season, I did love seeing a few of those Easter eggs pop up, which makes it so fun. But, this is its own show, and I love that it's its own show. How did you decide how much of the DNA to carry over and leave behind to make the paper really stand on its own?
Well, the pitch was the documentary crew is kind of finding a new subject, and that the part that you would connect is kind of the tone and the format elements and just the spirit behind the scenes, and that the actual subject matter would be all new and the characters would be new. And
yeah, and I feel like for the documentary crew to feel like they had found a subject that was a story that was worth telling, they would have to feel like they weren't repeating themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And it seemed like that would be the best way to do a spinoff, with very lightly connected and really sort of an excuse for a new show, but a bit of fun and Oscar.
I will say I love Domhnall as Ned. I think he's such a fun character, and there's so many different, colors to him that we can see throughout the season. What was it about him that, just stuck out to you guys that he has to be our Ned Samson?
Well, that's how it was. Like, we didn't we didn't have auditions. We had our lead character and all of the qualities that he needed to have, because we would imagine, well, what about that episode? What does he need in this episode? What about that episode? Well, he needs to be sincere, but he has to be quirky, and he's got to, kind of have a lot of like weird insistence on certain things and stick-to-itiveness, but he has to be kind of appealing, and people have to want to follow him. And like, there are all these things. and we summed up who could possibly do it. And
like Domhnall, to me, it's like he's done some of the best acting I've seen anyone do.
Yeah,
there are films he's done. There's an episode of Black Mirror that he did that I think is a really like superb piece of acting.
Yeah.
And then we were looking through his body of work, and when he was young, he did sketch comedy, and like really funny sketch comedy.
That was the big tipping point for us, as we found some footage of him at the age of 19 just being balls out, go for broke funny. And we were like, that's inside of that guy who's often, killing people in movies or whatever. He's also got this, this love of comedy.
Yeah. And it's nice because he has this kind of natural integrity that's really in him, and this kind of nobility, but he's also can be totally goofy and awkward. It's like a very nice combination of qualities.
And he'd worked with a bunch of the original Office cast who all gave him wonderful reviews.
Yeah, and speaking of Office cast and crew, we do have Paul Lieberstein and Ken Kwapis sort of grounding the tone of the series. How did that return help ground this new world? Because it isn't The Office, it's the paper, and it's so distinctively different,
Well, I loved the Office crew, and there's a ton of them working on the show. And one of the joys of doing another show in Los Angeles that's a mockumentary was being able to reconstitute this wonderful crew. So in addition, Dave Rogers, who directed the episode 9 and is the lead editor for the whole thing, he was the editor of The Office all the way through and a huge collaborator for me. Jeff Blitz, who won our Emmy for directing the Super Bowl episode, directed the last one. Jen Salata, who was also a terrific
great writer from The Office.
Directed an episode. Matt Sohn, who was our DP for most of The Office, came back to direct an episode. So much of it for me was like showing the new cast and writers the greatest hits of the crew that I love so much.
I think it was really helpful because when you do that, you don't really have to talk about the tone too much. People show up and their instinct is the right. That's exactly what you're looking for. And so that was, it was so nice to have so many people who like just did it by second nature.
I'm getting the rap, but I loved how the finale was so fun, and there's so much chaos in it. Even thinking about Esmeralda singing on stage, like the song for the dead, the community, the writers, the editors, and all that. But I have to say, Esmeralda and Ken, and then they're kind of scheming against Ned, and then we had Ned and Mare's kiss. Knowing that people are going to want more of this show, and I'm already willing this into existence that it happens, that we get a season 2. Where do we find everyone heading into season 2 that you would like to pick up after that finale that, fans can look forward to?
Well, how do you feel about a possible season 2? Are you excited and alive with possibilities in your head?
I am. I have a lot of...
That's what we want. And we're not going to tell you what happens because we want that wondering to extend until we can get back on the air.
Yeah, no, I totally understand that. I will say that something that was a fun observation for me was I always felt The Office was about men fumbling through power, but the paper sees Esmeralda and Mare pushing the story in bold new directions. Do you feel the series is adding something new to that legacy with a sharper, more female-driven point of view?
I think Esmeralda, Sabrina Impacciatore, is an insane force of nature for comedy. I'm so excited to write for her. When we found her, when she auditioned, she kind of blew us out of our chairs. We were texting each other. It was a Zoom audition. We couldn't believe it. And she brings so much physicality. She's really a comic genius. And the only thing that we'd really seen, actually, Michael, I think, had seen one of her films in Italy, but I
didn't understand it. I found everything I could. They were streaming, and I watched her, and it just reinforced everything I loved about her.
Yeah, no, she's incredible. I loved her.
Yeah, but it's kind of like she's the the female Italian Will Ferrell or something like that, and we've only seen one little snippet of her on White Lotus, and just did not realize the amount of juice that she has as a performer. So,
but to what you're saying, it's really cool when a performer like that asserts themselves in a way that kind of resonates into the story. You know, it's like her presence is something that it is powerful. So I'm glad that it felt that way to you.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys so much for this show. I am so happy. I'm so excited for everyone to tune in. And yeah, it's been incredible. I really do appreciate your time today. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot.
Thank you.